As I'm learning to speak German, in an hour-long conversation with a language exchange partner, I use an average of 2,986 words. I know that because I've been recording the sessions of me speaking with a conversation partner and tracking that number for the past 8 months. After recording, transcribing, and analyzing the one-on-one sessions I've had with teachers and conversation partners, I have a lot of data on my experience learning to speak German. That includes things like how your vocabulary grows, how to pick the best language exchange partner for you, and how you should use other materials to complement the time that you spend with native speakers. This is how I'm learning to speak German by the numbers. Last year, I did a 100-day challenge in Polish where I tracked every single word that I encountered to see how my vocabulary would grow versus what was predicted by linguistic research. That was a fascinating project and showed me the importance of dedicated effort and study when learning a language, especially compared to natural immersion approaches or gamified language learning through apps. So after 3 years of reading and watching and building my vocabulary in German, I knew that I would take a similar data-first approach when I wanted to start speaking. I started paying for German conversation lessons with this video in mind and thought of italki because I had gotten great recommendations for it, heard that the platform worked really well, and that they had great teachers. And then after a few months of taking lessons, they reached out to see if they could sponsor a video. So while this is sponsored, the idea for the video and the data precede the sponsorship. I paid for all the lessons on my own, and all of the opinions and data are my own. Let's start with the data. In the 11 mostly 1-hour sessions that I recorded, transcriptized, and analyzed, I used a total of 29,571 words. Though for those of you using the metric system, that is 118,284 syllables.
That is amazingly funny.
The nearly 30,000 total words breaks down to just over 3,000 unique words because common words like ich und nicht show up so often. The distribution of words makes sense with my most common words similar to the most common words in German, but there are a few key interesting points that come when we dig deeper into the data. Even after 11 sessions, I'm still using hundreds of new words per session, an average of 290 new words, though that number is declining. While conversation varies each session, the fact that this number goes down isn't a bad thing if you view this data as a cumulative demonstration of my active vocabulary. Just like as your vocabulary grows, you'll need to use a dictionary less as you watch and read. The more you speak and activate new words in your vocabulary, the fewer words there are available to introduce into a natural conversation. More on how to use this to your advantage later. I'm speaking just under 3,000 total words in every hour-long session. That's nearly the length of a chapter of a book. I don't have hard numbers on the rate of speaking when it comes to other platforms and other methods, but having taken language courses in class sizes ranging from 5 to 30 students, I know that even on a perfect day, I wasn't speaking more than 15 minutes over the course of, let's say, a 3-hour class. And another useful data point is the main tutor I worked with sends me an average of 39 corrections per lesson, totaling 273 corrections over all of our sessions. These could be vocab words, the best way to phrase something, or a small grammar point. My main language partner's approach of gentle corrections during the session itself, if I get stuck on a word, worked really well. And I also really appreciated the post-session correction notes that he would send, and I treat them like the goldmine that they are. It is tough to overstate how useful and valuable it is to have hundreds of course corrections over time that are based on the specific areas that I need to work on, not just general common mistakes. Beyond the numbers, I also wanted to speak a bit to the qualitative side of things. Undoubtedly, there were real moments of feeling confident while speaking and being understood, even if I made mistakes in what I was trying to say or in the pronunciation getting jumbled.
Ich glaube, das sind richtiger kleiner Vögel, aber sie überqueren ein paar hundert Meilen in einer, vielleicht
Ja.
nur in ein oder zwei Tagen, um das Mittelmeer zu überqueren. Und deshalb brauchen sie nicht dieser Korridor durch Israel. Also hier, ja, es gibt ein paar hundert Vogelarten. Ja, und das hat Spaß gemacht, all die Arten zu lernen.
But of course, there were also many, many moments where I couldn't seem to get anything out.
In diese KI-Sprachpartner-Konzept, wenn das,
Ja, wenn das so gut ist, dass
dass man,
dass ich obsolet werde, ja, das
aber auch, wenn man, vielleicht ist es,
But this unpredictable messiness is where the rubber meets the road of learning to speak a language. After my experience, I'm proud to coin the term linguistic constipation for when you're having a hard time speaking a language that you've been learning and should be able to speak. It's not pleasant, but for 99% of language learners, you have to go through a prolonged process of easing your way out of this linguistic constipation. And based on this data and my experience using italki, speaking with native speakers is probably the best way to get comfortable. Before speaking a bit more on the most valuable things that I learned and what I'm going to be doing going forward, I do want to take a step back and provide a bit of background on how italki works. Italki is an online language learning platform based around personalized one-on-one lessons with native speakers. When you sign up, you get 3 trial lessons at a lower rate to make sure you find the right teacher before establishing more of a regular schedule, which only depends on how many lessons you want to take. When you find the right teacher, that's your launchpad to get you speaking as much and as quickly as possible with the helpful guardrails provided by native speakers experienced in working with language learners. All of these are reasons why I've been using italki for almost a year and recommend it, even unrelated to the sponsorship, because it's a platform built around meaningful conversations and getting guidance and feedback from people who know the language best. They have teachers for more than 150 languages, almost certainly including the one that you're learning, and because everything's online, you can effectively travel the world linguistically to speak with whoever you need. You only pay when you want to take a lesson, making the platform both flexible and affordable, and a lot of teachers have packages where you get a discount if you buy multiple lessons at once. They also have a new premium feature called italki Plus with personalized courses and coaching to help you reach your language goals faster. I work full-time, have a wife and a kid, and I'm grateful that a platform like this exists where it's as convenient as it is to schedule lessons in German or Hebrew. If you're learning a language and are ready to start speaking, or heck, if you're putting it off exactly like I was a year ago, I'd encourage you to just jump in and find a language partner. If you're so inclined, consider using italki. For the first 50 people who sign up using my link, buy $10 and you'll get $5 for free towards your first lesson using my promo code ONEWORD2025. And thank you to italki for sponsoring this video. So after analyzing all of this data and reflecting on my ongoing experience, which I don't plan on stopping anytime soon, here are the 3 key lessons that I've learned. I think that it's good advice to start speaking whenever you want and whenever you're ready when you're learning another language. This is especially true for introverts like myself and also applies if you're on the more intellectual side and are putting off speaking for one reason or another. Trying to speak will teach you what you don't know and is a very helpful course correction for both areas of vocabulary and grammar concepts. Yes, immersing and watching and reading more will teach you more about the language, but if you want to learn to speak, start speaking. After trying out a whole host of language partners on italki, here are the only 4 things that matter, at least to me. Number 1, find a language partner who maximizes the amount of words that you speak, not them. While you are paying for a conversation partner, which requires the normal back and forth of conversation, I'd recommend that you prioritize finding a teacher who creates space for you to talk, not for them to just provide explanations. You should be speaking as much as possible, not them. Number 2, the language partner should be providing you with helpful corrections, whether that's during the session itself or in notes after the session ends. Of course, you want enough corrections to be helpful, but not so many that you're going to stop talking. If you stop talking because you're feeling overly self-conscious or the explanations are taking too long, then you know that it's too many corrections. If this is something that you're really concerned about, it might even be worth saying that you don't want corrections just so that you can build momentum. Remember, corrections are about helping you speak better and to speak more. The third point is that there should be some chemistry and you don't feel self-conscious when you speak. This may take a session or 2 to find out because this does take time to see whether or not there's chemistry, but that's why those trial lessons on italki can be helpful before you commit to a partner longer term. And number 4 for picking the right language partner is that you just enjoy spending time with them in your target language. This is as much about vibes and just jiving with another person as it is about shared interests or enjoying the fact that you're really learning a lot from another person. Keep these 4 things in mind as you're assessing whether a language partner is someone who you'd want to spend hours and hours learning from. The last thing I want to talk about is how other resources and tools should factor into working with a language partner. Speaking with a language partner is one part of the constellation of activities that make up language learning. While your goals may differ, I highly recommend that you make sure that you're spending time extensively watching and listening to content and intensively reading. In particular, there are a few ways that I want to call out how other language learning activities, platforms, and tools play a role in you learning how to speak another language. When it comes to immersing, there's no immutable rule for the balance of time that you should have between watching and reading versus writing and then speaking. And this will also likely change the more or less time you have for dedicated activities. While I am learning to speak German, the majority of my time is still spent watching, listening, and reading. More immersion has the added benefit of you being able to explore your interests via the language, which will then in turn lead to better and more relevant conversations. Let's be frank, I don't want to pay for a session where I have to spend an hour talking about some pre-packaged lowest common denominator questions in German. I want to improve my speaking abilities for what I find important and what I'm interested in. Immersion can help with that. I love when language learning activities fit together, and those 273 corrections that I got from my main language learning partner have made their way into Anki, whether that's by refreshing a word that I didn't know or making new cards for me to review. And last, a few thoughts on classes and cost for value. I don't deny that dedicated classes can be very helpful, but whether you go to the in-person classes or go the online route, they usually cost from hundreds to thousands of dollars, and that's where you have a teacher that's dedicated to you and other students. If a course isn't right for you, but you have the money to spend, I'd recommend thinking of this as an investment and working with a language teacher or a conversation partner for a couple of months. As my German learning continues, I'll continue working with language partners and continue analyzing the transcripts of my conversations to see how my vocabulary is growing, how my confidence increases, and whether or not I'm reaching my goal of becoming a polyglot who can shock locals by speaking their native language. Oh my God, I don't think that would ever happen with a German person. That's all I've got. If you're learning to speak a language, check out italki for your language teacher needs, and you'll get $5 off when you spend $10 on your first lesson using my code ONEWORD2025. Check out the links in the description below. Watch this video of me doing a 100-day Polish challenge if you're interested, and I'll catch you in the next one.